Welcome to the Writers Weekly podcast, a forum geared toward the writing enthusiast and those who want to make money from their writing. I'm Brian Whidden, managing editor of Writers Weekly, and I'll be your host along with Angela Hoy, the creator of Writers Weekly and president and CEO of BookLocker.com, a full-service book publishing company. Whether you want to learn how to become a professional writer, how to find writing gigs, or even publish your own book, then you come to the right place. We'll be discussing all kinds of topics relating to the writing and publishing industries. Don't forget, you can also click over to WritersWeekly.com. There, you'll find not only thousands of articles about professional writing, you can also find current paying markets and job listings to help you boost your writing career and even your bottom line. But for now, let's get on to this episode of the Writers Weekly podcast. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Writers Weekly podcast. And today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and its effect on the writing world. So we're going to be kind of narrow today. But first, if you have a book, a manuscript sitting around, a book you've been thinking about writing, come on over to BookLocker.com. That's BookLocker.com, and we can get your book published for you. We have several different packages that'll fit your budget, and we have been in business for over 20 years, so don't take a risk on any of these ads that are popping up on Facebook and Twitter and all these other places. Come to a place that has been around for a while, and we will treat you right. That's BookLocker.com, BookLocker.com. So what started out as science fiction has become reality in our world. Computer programs that predict outcomes, read and digest vast amounts of information, and then summarize factual points within seconds. They can scan thousands of information sources and direct their users to the most relevant content, and even make seemingly logical decisions when confronted with complex problems or tasks are now all a reality in our world. We've been using artificial intelligence for years now without much of a second thought. Think about chatbots on e-commerce websites, Alexa, military weapons systems, voice and facial recognition programs, and the list goes on and on. The writing world's been heavily impacted in recent years by the growing prevalence and capabilities of artificial intelligence, and it's causing a lot of concern. Most of that surrounds the established understanding of intellectual property, the concept of originality in writing, and even the integrity of our educational models. So today we're going to dive into the muck and swim around a bit as we examine AI from multiple angles. We're going to discuss various aspects surrounding AI and its influence on the writing world. And with me to do this deep dive in the muck and the mire is Angela Hoy, owner and CEO of BookLocker.com and also the creator of WritersWeekly.com.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a special guest with us. He's a writer, an editor, a ghostwriter, educator, singer, songwriter, and a media producer. He's based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, just over the mountain from where we are. He's got over 2 decades of experience in the literary and creative arts, and he founded the Southwind Literary Services, where he offers professional editing, ghostwriting, marketing, and consulting services to authors across different genres. He's ghostwritten or edited more than 100 published books, and his expertise is in fiction, memoir, poetry, and creative nonfiction. He also holds an MFA in poetry from Georgia State University. He's a professor of English at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. His own book of poetry is forthcoming from SCE Press, and his creative work spans screenwriting, book publishing, and radio. He's a co-founder of, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, Trace Beardos.
Trace Beardos.
Trace Beardos, okay. a film production company developing a slate of films, docuseries, and unscripted Southern comedies. He's also a singer-songwriter. It never ends. He's a singer-songwriter. He's released several albums of original music, drawing from Americana, folk, and Southern storytelling traditions. He's a full member of the Southern Collective Experience and serves as a contributing editor of the Blue Mountain Review. And that's a journal of art and literature published under the collective's auspices. He also contributes to the Rome International Film Festival and Dante's Old South, and that's an NPR affiliated radio show that's dedicated to Southern arts and culture. All that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is Clayton Jones, and he's one of our associates that helps us out on a lot of our book publishing jobs, especially with the editing. Hello, Clayton.
Hey, Brian.
Welcome to the Writers Weekly podcast.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Can I share how we met Clayton?
Go ahead, Angela. Share how we met Clayton.
So once a week, I go to guitar lessons with our youngest son, and I met Clayton in the guitar shop. He was repairing a guitar, and we just started talking about what we did for a living. And I found out he was an English professor at University of Tennessee, and I own a publishing company, and he offers professional editing services and marketing services. And we just started talking, and well, we haven't stopped talking since. And he is by far our author's favorite editor.
Yep.
We get lots of requests for him to edit our author's books.
All right, so to get us started here, I'm going to go ahead and just read a little bit of, because a lot of people, I think they know what AI is, but if you were to ask them to really explain it, they couldn't. Most of our experience now, if we've played with things like ChatGPT, Grok, things like that, is you type something in and it gives you an answer, and that's pretty much all people know about it. And my research comes from IBM.com, and we can post a link to the article that I pulled this off of in under this episode on WritersWeekly.com/podcast. So we've got three types of AI, one of which actually exists, two of which are completely theoretical. Artificial narrow AI, also known as weak AI, is currently the only AI that actually exists. General AI is still a theoretical idea, and so is super AI. We're nowhere close to that yet. Now, what is narrow AI? Narrow AI it's a computer program. It's trained or programmed to perform specific tasks faster and better than humans. However, it can't perform outside of its defined tasks. It targets a single subset of cognitive abilities and advances in that spectrums. Think Siri, Amazon's Alexa, IBM Watson, ChatGPT, basically text-based chats. Then we go into general AI, which again, we still have not reached this. And they're saying that this would have the ability to use previous learnings and skills to accomplish new tasks in a different context without human intervention. Again, we're not there yet. And then super AI would think, reason, learn, and make judgments and possess cognitive abilities that surpass those of human beings. But we're only going to continue now to talk about the narrow AI, the simple AI. And narrow AI has two types of functionalities. The first type is reactive machine AI. And reactive machines are AI systems with no memory, and they're designed to perform a very specific task. So they're unable to recollect previous outcomes or decisions. They only work with presently available data. This stems from statistical math. And one example of this is IBM's Deep Blue chess playing supercomputer analyzed pieces on a board and then would predict probable outcomes of each move. If you've used Netflix recommendation engine, it processes data sets collected from your viewing history, but it doesn't have an actual memory of anything that it did or that you did. It basically has to look at a database. Something has to be put there for it to read and come up with its decisions.
Kind of like, when I watch something on Amazon Prime and and then I get fed that same genre over and over again as
Yeah.
recommendations. Okay.
Yeah, recommended for you. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Then there's limited memory AI. So limited memory AI is able to recall past events and outcomes, and it can monitor specific objects or situations over time. It can use it uses past moment and present moment data to decide on a course of action to achieve a desired outcome. So we're only dealing with the narrow AI and its functional capabilities.
My head's already spinning.
So some of the biggest issues when it comes to the writing world is AI has to be, quote, taught things. And the way it's being done right now are these big AI companies do what's called scraping of the internet, and scraping websites basically means it's pulling information off of websites and then using it to help, quote, train the AI. And that brings up a lot of copyright issues and other intellectual property concerns, because I don't necessarily think I want ChatGPT coming and pulling all the content out of my book and then perhaps vomiting it out to somebody else.
And there's been some questionable actions about how they're getting a hold of the entire contents of these books and feeding them into their AI systems.
And then one of the things that's become another concern is that structural code and the foundational databases for the AI, because it is a computer program, it can be subject to the bias of its programmers. Sure. Somebody has to build these programs for AI to work, and it may tailor its responses and limit the information it presents based on such bias. And one interesting thing is when I found this, I decided, well, let me look more into bias in AI.
Oh, this is fun.
So I actually went on Google and I Googled bias in generative AI. And the response that Google's AI responder, whatever, a client spit back at the top of the page was, and I'm quoting here, generative AI, while powerful, can be prone to bias, mirroring and amplifying societal inequities present in the data it's trained on. The bias can manifest in various ways, including perpetuating stereotypes, reinforcing harmful assumptions, and contributing to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. Right away, I'm willing to bet money on the cultural and political biases of the people that programmed Google's AI response there.
Yeah. And those biases can come from both sides of the aisle.
It can. It can come either way.
Yeah.
So AI is not just it's
not just factual.
It's not thinking for itself. It's got something that drives it.
It's not just factual. You're getting individual people's opinions fed to you as well. Yeah.
So let's start with Angela. Angela, let's talk about the implications of AI scraping of information currently on the internet. Your thoughts on that?
Well, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, some companies have gotten into trouble because they are actually getting a hold of entire manuscripts and feeding those into their systems without permission from the authors or publishers. So that's a problem. If you're using AI to write an article or write a book, do you even know where that information's coming from? No, you don't. All you know is that they've scraped the internet and they're feeding you an answer to a question you asked, or giving you ideas about what to write about, or where to take your plot next, or how to describe your character. And if you don't know where that information's coming from and you end up publishing a book with that information, you could get into trouble. I mean, let's say you're using AI and they give you an idea for a novel and they give you a bunch of details about that novel, and you write the novel and you find out later it's extremely similar to a competing author. And you may be even using some of the exact same words that were in that person's novel. So that's why I would never use AI to write a book.
Clayton, you want to weigh in on this? I think this is going to be a great conversation today, because I know that all three of us have kind of a different take on AI. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But Clayton, you want to weigh in on that aspect about the implications of AI scraping information that's currently already on the internet?
Yeah. They had to train it somehow, you
True.
know. And from what I understand, and most of my experiences with Chat GPT, they basically fed it a bunch of novels,
Mm-hmm.
and so they could teach it to write.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea, coupled with all of the well, and we talk about this a lot in my writing classes at the university, about credibility of the stuff you find on the internet.
Yeah.
As we know, you've got to be good at fact checking to trust anything you find on the internet. So whatever chat tells you, it has learned it from what's available there. So the big question then is, well, how do I trust this information that I've gotten? And generally the basic answer is, well, after a while you can't. There've been a lot of people that have told me that they felt like Chat GPT came out what in 2022, November 2022.
Yeah, I'm not
And
100% sure.
Clayton knows
so
better
it's
than
been
we
with
will.
us a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
And during that time, when it came out, everyone was raving about how wonderful it was and how time saving it was and how brilliant this program is. But
Mhm.
I've noticed a lot of people saying that they thought that it was getting stupider.
Stupider. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the reason for that is because the internet has now been flooded with AI generated content.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is that the AI is answering questions that it has already answered with its own answers. And so it's basically you're getting, like a copying machine, you make a copy of a copy of a copy,
Yeah.
the quality becomes worse the more
That's
copies
a
you make.
great analogy.
Yeah.
So that's
And
kind of what we're getting these days. It's just a more watered down content, that AI generated content based on AI generated content.
Well, Brian did use
and
the word muck.
yeah, well, and I think therein lies the big divide between human thought and AI. I think a lot of people have these expectations of artificial computer intelligence becoming just like a human because and they starting to think that it can because it sounds like it. The difference is everything that computer's spitting back out at you is something that was already, it has to read something. It whereas I might see a picture, or let's go back to writing. I might read a book, and based on what I read in that book, my mind's gears start turning, and I come up with my own stories that aren't even close to being the same as what I read, but it was what I read that
Inspired you.
inspired me to have these other ideas. And I come up with my own creative thoughts and I can put them down on paper. But every time you get an answer from a chat GPT or a Grok or so, it is pulling that information from somewhere that somebody else has already come up with. So yeah, I love what Clayton's saying about, copy of a copy of a copy. And that's
Yeah.
basically what we're starting to get, I think, is it's just maybe a little twist and turn, but it's still regurgitating the same information.
And now it's regurgitating itself.
And now
Yeah.
it's regurgitating
Well,
itself. Yeah, because
at the same time, what I'm seeing, and this is what I've been told recently too, and I've seen this on the new version of Chat
a little
GPT,
bit
the
closer.
4.0. There's the deep research function.
Mm-hmm.
So that function, and you can type in a question, you can type in whatever you want, and it goes into this deep research mode where it will cite the sources for you, where it gathered the information. And I see that being helpful if you want to quick sort of Wikipedia rundown about any topic. But I and that's great. And I'm not saying that that we don't need to use Chat GPT for certain things.
Hmm.
I think what you have to really look at is it creative, and is it more creative than humans, and is what it creates, does it have any value?
Well, let me
Well,
keep. Go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and to me, the prime example was the Writers Guild strike a
Yeah.
couple years ago.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe they were going to use AI to start doing scripts and screenplays, right? And so a bunch
well,
of
yeah,
writers
yeah,
basically walked off.
yeah. The strike lasted for better part of a year or half a
Yeah.
year, and but basically the writers were scared that that AI was
Take over.
gonna take over, undermine their role.
Well, you mentioned
Uh,
AI being creative, but it's not really because it's directly taking ideas and words from that humans have written.
It's at best it's a language modeler.
Oh,
That's what the
very
entire
good.
thing was based on, was predicting. Just like Microsoft Word can you use the grammar function,
mm-hmm.
the
Like
grammar check.
spell check, grammar
Yeah,
check.
spell check, grammar check. It's based on that kind of language model, like
Yeah.
predicting what the next word in a sentence could be.
Yeah.
It's an algorithm.
And it's doing that based on a database
Yeah,
of rules and understandings of the English language. I
right.
want to do this while we're doing this because we're starting to key off each other, and that's great. Let me start with Clayton and just what is your position on the use of AI for creative purposes, good, bad, or or something in the middle, and what's your personal experience using AI to create original content?
I'll start there. My experience using AI to create original material is that I have not used it to create original material. I have
Okay.
That was
used
an
it.
easy one.
I have used it though. I've put my own poems in there and asked Chat to explicate one of my poems. I wanted to see if it was
It's one of those
Wait a
big,
minute.
that's one of those
Wait a
big
minute.
that's one of those big professor
Explicate.
words.
yeah,
Yeah, Professor Jones.
Explicate.
Explicate. What is
yeah,
that?
to explain.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, and so
We're
it
gonna
went
do some
through.
explicating here. All right.
Yeah. So it went through line by line, and
Yeah.
it explicated the poem. And so I'll digress a little bit here. With art in general, particularly with creative writing, there's the old question, the big question: is this art? Is this writing? Is this poem? Is this story? Is this any good?
Hmm.
And a lot of people are like, "Well, this is subjective. There is no good or bad." No, no, there's definitely bad writing out there.
Hmm.
Just just as like there's good writing. So what you have to keep in mind is that for a book or a poem to be good, it succeeds in its purpose.
Can I
And
ask you?
so yeah,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
So after you have ChatGPT explicate your poem for you, do you make any changes to it based on what ChatGPT told you that it thought about your poem?
No,
Okay. All
no,
right.
no. What I was able to discover though was that what I had written succeeded in the purpose that I laid out for it, and
oh,
that
Okay.
great. Okay.
wood modeler was able to pick up on the things that I'd written,
Okay.
and that
You
told
mean the
me,
ideas that you were portraying?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
I
okay.
thought,
All
okay,
right.
well, this, so I found it useful for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, Now I have used it when working on screenplays, and this is an age-old trick for screenwriters. You copy and paste stuff you've already blocked out, you erase the dialogue, and then and then you plug your dialogue back in. It's
So
just
more like
just
a formatting thing?
Yeah, yeah. So I've used it
Oh, okay.
to format some things, and so yeah, there are some uses. And then here's the other thing you can use it for that I don't think, and I guess this is really what we're getting into is the ethics of it.
Yeah.
You can talk to it just like I'm talking to you right now, and you can bounce ideas off of it. And that's
Yeah.
helpful in a brainstorming kind of session. You can do that. And so yeah, I've done that with it too. Come up with ideas that way. And that's one exercise that my students and I did last fall. And it ended up being one of the more meaningful assignments that we did last semester was using chat to help us through our planning and pre-planning and pre-writing phases.
What
Yeah.
I'd like to I'd like to challenge you because well, and I think this goes to AI is still such a nebulous idea. I think it has a lot to do with how people are viewing it. Like you said, Clayton, you don't use it for original content. However, I would challenge that if you are talking to ChatGPT and bouncing ideas and getting its feedback, and then you consider that feedback and mold your own ideas in your own writing based on that discussion you had with ChatGPT, because it may have given you an idea you had not thought of yourself. Is that not using it to create original content?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah, I see where you're going with that, and so that is where I was going with this whole thing is that the ethics of it.
yeah.
Well,
And
if
I
you,
think that's ethical. I don't see a problem with that. I was just seeing if we saw that the same way.
yeah, yeah, so
Yeah,
so so the context of the exercises I've used in the university is around the idea of plagiarism,
gotcha. Yeah. Hmm.
and within any liberal arts education, the reason you're there is to learn to think for yourself.
Exactly.
Good point.
And you have a responsibility to your own ideas. I feel that if the AI helps you access your own ideas in a more meaningful way, then you have done that responsibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Angie, so I'm not going to ask you about your personal experience using AI, but same thing that I asked Clayton is what's your position on the use of AI for creative
Well,
purposes?
I do use AI, not for creative purposes. When
Okay.
I
Tell us
use
what you do.
Microsoft Words grammar smell checker.
Smell
Actually, it
checker.
said smell checker.
Yeah.
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 Um,
That's Angie.
that's that's Angie, and that's AI. Uh, anytime you're using a program, a computer program that is programmed to improve what you've done,
Okay.
like fixing smell to spell, in your writing,
Yeah.
that's considered AI.
Yeah.
I do have I wrote a children's book and I hired an illustrator
Mm-hmm.
and he guaranteed me that he did not use AI. And I had to pay him up front.
Mm-hmm.
And that illustrations came back. All the characters had like 6 fingers and 7 toes.
Do
And
that.
so he flat lied to me and
And
I
you
couldn't
know
get my
full
money
well.
back.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to charge me to
To
fix the
change
prop
them.
to remove some fingers and toes.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I I respect what Clayton said, and I agree with a lot of that. But when it comes down to the writing process, the actual writing process,
Mm-hmm.
I think you need your own original ideas, you need your own dialogue, you need your own style, you need your own flow. And I think using AI to like write a book is, I'll just say it, it's cheating.
Yeah.
It really is. And
Okay.
there's
I
so many
agree.
people using AI and putting garbage books on the market that are competing with real authors' books, and that gets under my skin.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Clayton?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And I actually saw a great article a few days ago. I think it was in the Atlantic, and I don't remember the name of it, but the the last sentence, and I'm paraphrasing, said something like this, that if you didn't take the time to write, if you didn't take the time to write it, I'm not going to take the time to read it. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and in that vein, let me move us a little bit further forward. And I think we touched on some ideas that an ethical way to use AI even for our own writing, but it
Our own
falls back
research.
on that. Don't just trust everything that it spits out at you. You need to look into it. And there have been
Oh, this is good.
examples of people you would think would be a lot better at doing their own research
Mm-hmm.
using AI in a non-ethical way, I would think. So, and these are all court cases.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in June of 2023, in a New York case called Mata versus Avianca, it was a lawsuit against a Colombian airline for an injury that was sustained on a flight. And attorneys from the law firm of Levedell, and Oberman used ChatGPT to come up with previous cases in order to support their client's claim. And I'll explain that real quick. Is a lot of times in court, this country's been around now for almost 250 years. There's been a lot of court cases, and we're not just talking criminal, just civil suits and things like that. And especially in the civil world, when you're trying to sue somebody, each lawyer on each side will go into the archives, into the law books of prior cases, and it's called case law. Yeah. You're trying to pull up cases that came up with similar outcomes to what you want, and present that to the judge and say, see, in this case, they ruled this way, and in this case they ruled this way, and in this case they ruled it, and all of those line up with our argument, therefore we should win this suit.
If you've ever seen filing any lawsuit papers, there's always the case law that they've cited is always at the bottom of the page in this tiny little script, but that's what that is, case law.
So when these attorneys from this law firm ran ChatGPT trying to find previous cases, ChatGPT produced, and I'm quoting from the judge, non-existent judicial opinions with fake quotes and citations.
Ouch.
So it didn't just come up with a bogus case. It actually made footnotes.
It created a bogus
stuff.
Yeah, the term is hallucinations, because it hallucinates things that it doesn't know, because it thinks they're real.
Yeah, it believes everything it puts out.
It believes everything it says. Yeah.
And for all we know, it came up with some case off of some episode of Perry Mason that it found in a script somewhere on the internet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's also a case of, I guess this was sometime last year, a couple of professors published an article in a peer-reviewed journal. And notice I said it was peer-reviewed.
In other words, people reviewed it.
That's other people with PhDs.
And did it get through?
Yeah. Until somebody, and then after it was published, someone noticed that it had the phrase "regenerate response" in it. And that phrase "regenerate response" is that's a button in ChatGPT when you want it to redo the answer.
Oh man.
So what they had done is they copied and pasted that phrase in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops.
And in this case, after this is how these are lawyers, so I don't want to say that. This does not make sense to a guy like me. When the judge confronted them with this, they still continue to stand by the fake opinions after judicial orders called their existence into question. They still said, no, Judge, these are true.
Wow.
I think it's safe to say that these lawyers did not go back after ChatGPT spit these things out and say, okay, let me go read this on my own so I know what I'm talking about.
Clearly.
I could be wrong. I want to make sure I don't get sued. But in my opinion, it seems that they did not check that work.
Well, it was either one of two things. Either they didn't check it, or they did and decided to try to hoodwink the judge.
Boy, that's
one of
yeah.
the two.
There was another one, and this is out of Reuters. Lawyers from Morgan and Morgan
We've all
used
heard that
AI to seek out case law in a lawsuit against Walmart. This was in Wyoming, and a lawyer claimed that the AI program hallucinated and created cases that didn't exist. And the defendant's lawyers cited 9 cases that these lawyers from Morgan & Morgan came up with that they weren't able to find in any law archives.
Wow.
So the defendants did their homework. Mm-hmm. You know, Walmart can afford some pretty good lawyers.
Right.
And went back and looked for these cases that these lawyers from Morgan & Morgan presented and said, these things don't even exist.
Wow.
And so this has happened in the last 2 years in at least 7 different cases in the United States, and it's happening in Canada too. Lawyers presenting
fake case
law because GPT said so.
Probably not just ChatGPT, probably other AI programs.
Or anything. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to just beat up on ChatGPT. So what do y'all think of that?
I think it's hilarious. It's incredibly irresponsible, but extremely entertaining.
This plays on, I guess, my position on AI as far as I think it's a good tool to try to help you scour over a lot of information very, very quickly and focus in on what you want to say, come up with, create, whatever. But then it is up to you to go to those sources. Mm-hmm. And when Clayton and I were talking earlier, I mentioned one of the things that I'm not really happy about with Grok. I kind of like playing with that. That's X's AI model, Musk's AI model. It will say searching 150, 200, 300 websites, and then it will give you its answer, but it doesn't tell me where did that answer come from. Mm-hmm. What website do I now need to go to, or websites, to research this information and see where it comes from?
Citing its sources.
No, I mean, it tells you clearly that it's checking all these websites, but it doesn't tell you what website it's like. Now, I haven't played with it a whole lot. Maybe there's a button I need to click to get that. I don't know. But on its initial screen that just spits out this nice long several paragraph answer, it doesn't tell you what the sources were.
Clayton, have you worked with Grok?
I have not. But I have heard. I think I was talking. My brother attended an AI seminar a few weeks ago, and I think he told me that with Grok, that the function of citing the sources is on the way.
Well, good. Yeah.
You didn't miss it, Brian.
Okay. So I'm not the only one. But I think that's where has AI been oversold? Have we all been convinced that this thing is infallible, and that's why people are just so trusting that they're just going to type something into ChatGPT, Grok, Google, whatever, and just immediately what comes up, they just assume that that's the God's honest truth?
Well, that's kind of the way folks do anyways with Google. I mean,
true.
Everything on the internet is true.
Right. It's just like with any other kind of information, you have to learn to discern what's credible and what's not.
Verify.
Learn to discern.
Yeah. And these the lawyers that you've cited and and the professors I mentioned, we all know that was irresponsible. Mm-hmm. That was just irresponsible.
Yeah. Well, let's segue that, Clayton, into what you're seeing in the educational realm, because you are a college professor. You do teach, and you have addressed AI in your classroom. First of all, tell me how that came about. You're deciding that you needed to. You told me that you guys are literally focusing in on ethics of AI. So tell me how that came about.
Yeah, so some of the professors are definitely embracing it, and I've spoken with several colleagues that are leaning pretty hard into it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and and so yeah, it's the elephant in the room, and we could talk about it all day long, or not. So the biggest concern, obviously, is students writing their papers using generative AI.
Yeah.
Have you caught anybody doing that?
Sure.
How, and I know you can't go into specifics, but well, maybe you don't want to talk about this because maybe some of your students might be listening to this. But how did you catch them?
Because I can tell. I
Go
know.
into that, and
Yeah, yeah.
because
So we'll say,
we've done the same thing, but go ahead.
yeah,
Well, if you look at purpose and context and and all that kind of stuff, all of the rhetorical aspects of any piece of writing, it's easy to tell.
yeah,
It's easy to tell. I mean, just frankly, I know what student writing is supposed to look like. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. You know, I've been doing this a long time, so there's that. But then I imagine, you know, even a young writing instructor should be able to look at it and tell, wait a minute, something's off here.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
actually posted on social media asking if people had questions for this episode, and a couple people mentioned they can tell.
yeah,
They can just tell right
yeah,
off. And honestly, if you're a good writer, the better writer you are, the more you're able to detect what you're
yeah,
reading
yeah.
is AI.
It's mediocre at best. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm. We
too
used to.
polished and it's mediocre. Yeah, it avoids grammar errors and things like
Yeah.
that. And humans make grammar errors. I mean, they just do.
Yeah.
We started seeing probably about 2 years ago, maybe three, when people would write into Writers Weekly. Some of these query letters had a pattern to the language,
Yeah.
a very specific pattern that was too well spoken for what, and they all seem to, I think they all seem to start with greetings. I hope this letter finds you well, almost to the letter. That's what they would say. And then it would go on to,
It looked like the same person wrote every single query letter,
yeah,
but they were coming
yeah.
from all
They
over
were
the
coming
world.
from all over the world, from all kinds of different people that I know weren't speaking English as a first language. Punctuation may be off and stuff, but I mean, the 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 tone, the cadence, the patterns,
It was really kind of
just
robotic.
it was, yeah. And I think they were always 3 or 4 paragraphs, every one of them.
Yeah.
You know, nobody seemed to be able to say the same thing in one paragraph or two. It was always three.
I was
To,
starting to wonder if somebody had set up some AI program where you could submit article queries to different websites and magazines, and I thought we run some kind of list because they just kept coming and then we just eventually we stopped responding to them because we knew they were
yeah,
bugs.
you just, as soon as you see that pattern, you would
Yeah.
just delete it. Yeah, just not even bother with it. So yeah, I definitely think it has. Now, I doubt somebody that spends as much time reviewing writing and information as we do would catch that. But anybody that spends a good amount of time sampling other people's writings would definitely say there's something off here.
Yeah.
There's something not right about this particular.
Well, we're looking for it. You know,
Yeah.
True.
you find it when you're looking for it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the more you look for it, the easier it is to find.
Yeah.
What are the ramifications of college students now getting caught using AI?
That's a good question.
If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine.
Well, no, that's a good question. There are certainly rules in place about that.
Yeah.
Uh, but if they are told not to do it and they do, you know, they could certainly be expelled.
Mm.
Yeah, there absolutely can be disciplinary measures for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's
Like
gonna.
you treat it just like any other kind of plagiarism.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's
But again,
intentional plagiarism, you're subject to inquiry and
sure.
possible.
Sure. But if they use it again to present them with several places to go research their information, or give them other ideas that they wouldn't otherwise have thought with or thought of, and then they chase those ideas down the rabbit hole themselves,
and then do their own writing.
and I think that's where there's so much that we have yet to nail down as far as the implications of this. Where's the line drawn between ethical and unethical? What can you do? What can't you do? Because it's no longer, Johnny college student goes into the library and spends 3 hours pulling books off the shelves and finding all these, ideas and then writing a paper on it. It's sitting in a computer saying, give me, 50 resources on the, on Shakespeare's Macbeth. He wrote that, right? Macbeth. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it'll just spit these things out. So you've already not really done the same work as going into the library and pulling books and reading, but is that cheating?
It has limitations on that kind of research. AI can't do scholarly research. It doesn't have access to the databases that we do. It just can't. And then I was just thinking this too, with the kinds of assignments that we give, we know what the outcome, because we have learning outcomes. We have expectations that the students need to meet for each assignment. And it's going to be, it'd be really difficult to use AI to successfully pull these assignments off.
Good.
It'd be real hard.
Okay.
Be better off doing it yourself.
Do it yourself. And that's what you're trying to teach them anyway, is how to think for yourself, how to search out information. Yeah. So while we're in this vein here, I wanted to bring up and this is from the Heshinger report. Again, we'll have this link on writersweekly.com/podcast. In September, this was posted September 2024, so this is very recent. The University of Pennsylvania did a study, and they looked at almost 1,000 high school students in Turkey. Now, don't ask me why Turkey. I don't know why they didn't do it here, but anyway, 1,000 high school students in Turkey. They broke them up into 3 groups. One group had full access to GPT to solve practice problems before taking a test. Another group had no access to Chat GPT to solve any of these practice problems. And the third group had access to a modified version of Chat GPT that would only offer hints to the answer like a tutor would, but it would not give them the answer. So the group using AI were able to solve 48% more of the practice problems correctly than those that did not have ChatGPT. However, when they took the test, they did 17% worse on the test results than the kids that did not have ChatGPT.
I'll be darned.
Now that makes sense because they were getting fed the answers. Right.
However, they are getting fed wrong answers.
Okay, possibly.
Yeah.
The group using a modified AI, which basically served as a tutor, it would help them find the answer. However, it would not give them the answer. They solved 127% more of the practice problems than the non-AI group. So they were, in the practice, they were able to do a lot better. But again, when it came to the test, they actually did no better than the non-AI group.
Yeah, and you see, to me, that sounds good to me. It sounds like that group was able to get the information, and they were able, like I said, they were able to discern on their own what the right course of action was.
But again, once it came to the test, so they didn't do any better than the kids that studied on their own. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, is that clearly just giving kids the answers didn't help them any.
Right.
Helping them find the answers helped them a little, until it came time to put the computer away and sit down and memorize and use your own memory and thought process to and it didn't. I don't believe it told the article said what kind of tests these were. I don't know if they were math, if they were language, if they were history, if they're, I don't know.
It makes sense that the kids who they were tutored by the system, meaning they had to do their own research. And while you do your own research, you learn more about a topic than just the answer to that question. I think
so. Absolutely.
And it probably makes it easier for them to discern the answer when they're being tested. You think so, Clayton?
I agree. They used it as a tool rather than using it to solve their problems.
Not a cheat sheet.
Right.
And so let's move that into AI detection tools.
I use those.
You use those? Do you use any of that, Clayton? Or are you the detection tool?
Well, yeah, in my classes, we have access to plagiarism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Angie, what are you currently doing that helps you detect AI?
Well, I go through every single day. I go through book manuscripts and articles.
Okay.
And query letters. And query letter is, again, when somebody pitches an article idea to us for WritersWeekly.com.
If you haven't yet listened to episode 5, I believe that was query letters. Or was that 4?
WritersWeekly.com/podcast singular. They're all right there.
There you go. All right.
5, I can't remember.
We did a whole episode on query letters and book proposals. So,
if you go to Google and search for AI detector, what's going to pop up right up top is Grammarly's AI detector. You can copy and paste 10,000 characters into a box, click a button. It takes a couple minutes, and it will tell you what percentage of that manuscript, query letter, or article that system, of course, thinks is AI. Okay, so if I put in 10,000 characters from a book, and I use this every single day from a book, if it says like 2% AI, it's not really AI.
Okay.
You know? If it says, 46%, 75%, 100% AI, then I know that person has used AI or has gone online and stolen other people's material. I typically see these from query letters and book manuscripts coming from Pakistan, the Philippines, India, Zambia, you name it. It's almost never somebody that's located in the United States.
And if you are an author or writer who's hoping to publish your writing and you're considering just throwing some things into an AI bot and having it, produce your story for you, we're not the only ones looking to detect that. Other publisher, any place that's selling writing, Amazon, our printer, and I'm about to go over these, are now. The funny thing is, it's still kind of murky as to exactly how they feel about AI. I mean, clearly they don't want plagiarism. Clearly. But so here, I looked up Amazon's AI policy, and here's what is on their KDP site. It says artificial intelligence content. We require you to inform us of AI generated content that's text, images, or translations when you publish a new book or make edits to or and republish an existing book through KDP. AI generated images include cover and interior images and artwork. You are not required to disclose AI assisted content. We distinguish between AI generated and AI assistant content as follow. AI generated. We define AI generated content as text, images, or translations created by an AI-based tool. If you use an AI-based tool to create the actual content, whether text, images, or translations, it is considered AI generated. Even if you applied substantial edits afterwards, it's still considered AI generated. AI assisted. If you created the content yourself and used AI-based tools to edit, refine, error check, or otherwise improve the content, then it is considered AI assisted. That's text or images and not AI generated. Similarly, if you used an AI-based tool to brainstorm and generate ideas, but ultimately created the text or images yourselves, This is also considered AI assisted and not AI generated.
And forgive me if I'm jumping ahead of you here, but
Nope.
our printer, when we upload files and set up a book, and we use the largest print on demand printer in the world, they have us check 3 boxes. So we have to ask our authors
asking about AI.
Then we have to answer our printers' questions, because they are owned by the world's largest book distributor, and they have to answer those questions for Amazon. So it's just going up the ladder steps.
And our printer actually, oh gosh, my brain's blank here. It doesn't ban it.
You just have to notify them.
It forbids content created using automated means, including but not limited to content generated using artificial intelligence or mass-produced processes. That's all they say. They don't know what that means. They don't go into as much detail as Amazon does.
Right.
But clearly they're saying don't let us catch you putting AI.
They probably know what's coming from Amazon.
Probably. Yeah. Now, and you also notice they don't specify text or images, so that's covers and production files
and interior images as well.
Interior images, yeah. So, okay. And before we wrap it up, I did print out some of these questions, Angie, that you gave me from some of our listeners and readers and listeners.
Yeah, readers, listeners.
So I'm just going to throw these out to you guys, and let's come up with some answers for them. I think the first is a comment. It's, I've used AI to write my. Is it okay to give these names?
First name only.
Bell, or is it C? I don't know. Okay.
Bell.
I've used AI to write up my initial eBay items, but usually have edits as they use what other people have written. As for my writing, I'd rather write my own stuff, do my own research, and revel in all the hard copies of books that I own, like a complete set of encyclopedias that will still work even if a solar EMP happens.
A movie just came out about a solar EMP.
Did it?
Yeah. Oh, it's actually a nuclear EMP. Anyway.
There's a big difference, Angie.
Oh, well, all I know is we'll die. Interesting that she wrote about her eBay listings.
I didn't know eBay had AI.
So you have to write, your listing for what you're selling on eBay, and you can use AI, and it'll pull other people's listings. So you're basically using the same description or similar description.
Yeah, like Clayton said, now you're starting to do copies of a copy of a copy.
But I never even crossed my mind before. Clayton, you got a comment on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to me that when you rely on it to, I don't know, this idea between the AI assisted and AI generated, I think that's a great distinction to make. And I had never thought about, you writing copy for eBay. But I can totally see from a marketing standpoint how the language would end up being dull. But I can also see, on the other hand, if it's as simple as doing an eBay listing, that if you're coming across unprofessional, maybe you do need some AI assistance, but maybe you don't need AI generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can definitely think of some eBay ads that I've seen that I really wish they could have put a little bit more detail into what they were describing to me, and maybe their AI helps you actually, describe your item better. Yeah. Timothy, how does using AI affect your copyright? Now, I'm not sure if that means if you used AI, can you copyright that work? Or
I have an example.
Okay.
Again, every episode, we're not attorneys. We can't give you legal advice. We submitted one of our authors' books to the Copyright Office, Registration Office, and they determined that part of the book had been written using AI. Now, the author had not disclosed that to us. The Copyright Office refused to grant a copyright certificate to that author. And if we all know how to look for AI, you can bet the Copyright Office does too. So, if you use AI in and on your book, you can be refused to copyright in the United States, at least.
Okay.
Clayton?
Yeah. From my understanding, I mean, it's this way with the images, right? Like with book covers, if they're AI generated, that's not covered by any copyright.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, because God knows it may be somebody else's work.
Well,
Right.
probably it is, or a combination of several people's
Or
work.
combinations. Yeah. It's a Frankenstein of a bunch of people's work.
I do think it's fun though to get on chat and ask it to make pictures of Jesus with cats. Yeah.
Okay, Clayton, what's the name of your TikTok channel?
Jones Books and Stuff.
Okay, so I was talking to Clayton a couple days ago, and I said, I love that name, Jones Books and Stuff. And he said, that's so I can put cats in there too.
Yeah.
Okay, folks.
I sent him that video of you when Rocky was asleep and you wake him up. I said, Clayton, you can use this cat if you want in your channel.
Jones Books and Stuff, folks, on TikTok. Go check it out.
He does some really good book marketing on there too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he did that one that you showed me the other day with all the swirling flames and all that stuff. Yeah, that was awesome, dude. You're gonna have to show me how you did that. Okay. Here's one that we kind of discussed a little bit. Gene asks, is it acceptable to use AI when you get stuck in a plot and need suggestions for a plot twist? I use AI as a tool. I'm not an author. And
I'm not an author. I wonder if she mistyped that.
Okay.
It sounds like she is an author.
Let's say she is an author. Okay.
I'm going to defer to Clayton on this one.
Wait a minute.
I already talked about this. Yeah, Clayton. Is it okay? What did she say? To use it for a plot
twist? Is it okay for a plot twist? I'm coming back to you, so you better come up with an answer. All right, Clayton, your take on it.
You'd be much better off in the time and developing your own twist. I mean, again, we have to have original thought. Now, and and I did say earlier that you can have conversation. I mean, and you literally can have conversations with it now. And I actually just found that feature this morning, which is strange. My wife and I were kind of laughing about it because I asked it how it was doing, and it told me, "Oh, just doing great today, Clayton." Do this. You can ask it when you get a chance. Ask ChatGPT about what it thinks about your future and if there's any blind spots in the things. Okay. You'd be real surprised. You were talking earlier about the memorative version. Yeah, it knows more about you than you think it does.
Okay. All right.
So the question is it okay? Yeah, it's okay to ask it about your plot. Are you gonna get a better book that way? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably going to give you more information than you actually need.
Yeah. That's possible.
It could also, I'll go
back to you.
It could also give you a plot twist that already appears in somebody else's book.
There's that too.
There's that possibility. Yeah.
I full confession, the only type of AI I've ever used is spell check, grammar check, that kind of thing. I've never used AI to help me write an article. I've never used AI to help me write a book, to design anything like that. I couldn't even tell you how to access ChatGPT. Is it an app? Is it a website? I know nothing about it because I've never used it. I've never used one of those programs. I think that, like I said before, using AI to write your story for you or to come up with different creative ideas, I think it's cheating. That's my opinion.
Okay. And last one's a comment, not a question, but it says, I don't like AI at all. You can tell immediately that it's AI because it has no feeling to it, no soul.
Her name's Angela, right?
Yes.
She's one of our authors.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's a good writer.
So yeah. And, again, this episode will be listed on our page, writersweekly.com/podcast. I think it would be great to get some feedback from our listeners on that page in the comments section. Tell us what you think about what we're talking about. How do you feel about AI? Should you just be able to type in, tell me a story and then take that and run with it on your book? Or should you do your own research or something in the middle? That we'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
What was the episode we did on NaNoWriMo? What
that was episode 3, I believe.
Episode 3. That's also on writersweekly.com/podcast. in there is a link to an article about how they had an uproar from their members after they announced that it was okay to use AI to write a novel, or however they worded it. So
yeah, that caused a big hullabaloo with a very large organization.
and then they went out of business.
All right, Clayton, give us a couple of plugs of your websites, businesses, whatever you'd like people to know about you.
Cats.
Yeah, Jones Books and Stuff on TikTok. You can see some videos there, and then my website is southwindliterary.com.
Southwindliterary.com. We'll list those also on the page on writersweekly.com/podcast.
I mentioned that Clayton does editing for our authors. He's extremely popular because he's excellent at it. He also creates our book trailers.
Yeah, Clayton, what kind of services can you offer people in anything? What do you offer people?
Editing, book marketing, and social media marketing, and consulting services.
Okay, great. Angela, you got anything else for us?
No. I'm gonna go get on my computer and do a little research on a couple of the funny things y'all mentioned, like, those court cases and stuff. So
I have one final idea
Sure.
I'd like to throw out there. Here's what I think about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Serious writers aren't going to use ChatGPT to write their books.
Or any similar program.
I think it boils down to something we have said before: is not everybody is a writer. Not everybody is a real creative. Doesn't mean you don't have other talent somewhere else, but some people are just really good at dreaming up ideas and putting them into words, and other people's it's just not their forte. And I think when it comes to, say, maybe academic writing, it could certainly help you with research and stuff, but I'm not sure if just taking a bunch of ideas from what a computer tells you and trying to writing it into a story is the best way to go about trying to become more creative.
At the end of the day, writing is a lot of work.
True.
It is a lot of work, and work isn't always fun.
Yep.
And so if you're using ChatGPT to help you not work, then maybe it's not worth doing,
I'll say the hard words. If
you're cheating.
It is. I already said that twice. Writing is, for me, it is fun. It's a creative process. I love stringing words together. I've been writing stories since elementary school. That's when it started. I love writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It's not work to me. I actually love doing the research too. I go to Google and look at actual articles. I don't use AI. If you are doing your own research and your own writing and your own plot twist and everything, that is awesome. And when you write a book, you deserve to be very proud of it.
Mm-hmm. If
you're using AI to write a book, I don't think that's anything to be proud of.
Okay. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of the Writers Weekly podcast. Be sure to go check out WritersWeekly.com. That's where you find all kinds of articles about writing and making money from your writing. We also have various paying markets and jobs that are available. We update those every week, so you can find fresh paying jobs for your writing gigs. Also, if you have a book manuscript, you want to get that published, check out booklocker.com. You'll talk directly to Angela and we'll get you hooked up and get your book on the market within 1 month of your final production files being approved by you. So we're one of the quickest when it comes to getting your book on the market. And for now, we're going to close this out. We'll see you next week on the Writers Weekly podcast. Goodbye.
Clayton will be joining us for future podcasts. You can go to writersweekly.com, click on contact us. And if you've got questions for Clayton, we will get them to him. Or what's his website again? Go directly to his website.
What's that website again?
Southwindliterary.com.
Southwindliterary.com.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all next week.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye.